So this is my review of the MetaQuest 3 headset, VR headset, 1 month later after having this headset. Today on this review, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the expectations versus the realities, about how this compares to the Quest 2, about how I've personally been using it, and some possibilities for how you could use it, and whether I'd recommend buying it or not. So, in a moment, let's jump in. So one of the first things that I noticed when I put on the MetaQuest 3 headset is just the clarity of picture. It's a lot lighter weight feeling. It's not actually lighter weight than the Quest 2, but I'll get into that. But the clarity of picture is immensely better than the Quest 2, and I'll talk about why in just a moment. So first, let's talk about specifics of the Quest 3 headset and how it compares to the Quest 2. We'll notice that hardware, as I mentioned, the weight of the actual headset is 515 grams versus 503 grams on the Quest 2. Now, granted, that's with the strap that comes with it. I know my personal Quest 2, I've put a whole head strap thing on it with a battery. It drastically adjusts the weight to feel like it's a little bit further back. So even though it's heavier, it's more comfortable to use. The other thing is that even with the increase in weight, that weight, being that it's slimmer, is actually sitting closer to your face. So I personally don't notice it as much. Now, that being said, I gave this to my kids, I gave it to my wife, and one of my kids actually said that they felt like this headset feels heavier and bulkier than the Quest 2, so it could also just be a matter of personal preference depending on your head, your neck strength, all those kind of things. So the biggest thing in the quality of the headset, like I said, really comes in with the clarity, and that's due to two things. Number one is the resolution is actually slightly increased, so the Quest 2 had a 1832 by 1920 pixels per eye, the Quest 3 having 2064 by 2208 pixels per eye. That's an increase of 30 pixels. Now, that's actually not where the thing comes in that makes this headset clearer. The biggest increase in clarity comes in the fact that this headset has pancake lenses. It's much slimmer. It's much closer to your face. I think it actually feels like the field of view is a little bit wider. Maybe it's not. But with the pancake lenses instead of the Fresnel lenses, that picture is clear not only in where you're looking, but also your entire peripheral vision. So it used to be, if I was reading a book in VR, let's say I was holding a book in a VR game, then looking at the center of the book would look fine. But if I used my eyes to look off to the side of the book, looking out the sides of the Fresnel lenses, everything would be blurry. That's not the case with the Quest 3. With the Quest 3, everything is sharp everywhere in the entire picture. So it no longer feels like you have a clear center of vision and then you're blurry looking out. It's clear everywhere. So that resolution really increases how the Quest feels. Just in how you use it, everything being much clearer, feels a lot better. Another contributor to that feeling is the processing speed has increased from the old Snapdragon headset to the new Snapdragon. I think it's like a Snapdragon 2 or something like that. But it's a new processor, a whole lot less lag, a whole lot less latency. Reduced latency and lag means smoother performance. Also, this is coming out the gate at 120 hertz, where the Quest 2, when it released, was only a 70 or 75 hertz. And then they eventually released firmware updates that got it up to 120. This comes out the gate looking smooth and fast. Now, let's talk about the controllers for a second, because this is wild to me. The Quest 3 controllers, and I don't have the Quest 2 controllers here to show you, but the Quest 3 controllers are much smaller, they're slimmer, they feel great in your hands. However, they've gotten rid of the ring that goes around the controller, and although it's a little bit more bulky, one of the things I do with my controllers, and if you're like me, you're probably doing this too, was to set the controller down on that ring so that that ring, kind of like a cup holder almost, sat on a table. No longer can you take your Quest controllers and just set them perfectly upright. Now they're kind of wobbly. There's no flat surface to set them on. You just kind of set them somewhere and they, hopefully they don't roll off. So it's kind of a weird frustration that it's both lighter and better, but also a little bit more inconvenient to set them down. Now, The battery duration, I don't have any details. I haven't done any tests, but I will tell you that the batteries feel comparable when I've used the Quest 2 and used the Quest 3. It feels like both of them have about a 2 to 3 hour battery life. That can be extended with an external battery, although I've been told by people in just online forums that the Quest 3 actually does use a little bit more power, and therefore if you're using an external battery, may not charge as fast as it's depleting that battery. So you might not be able to hold a charge. It might actually deplete a little bit faster. Now, software, interface, everything else is almost identical to the Quest 2 with one major difference. The Quest 3 now has full color pass-through, and it's actually high enough resolution that I've been able to read text messages on my phone while looking through. On the Quest 2, I would have to do this funky thing where I would have the headset on, and if I wanted to read a text message, I would have to take it and hold it really close to one of the camera lenses to try to read the text message. This one, it feels like it's comfortable enough. I can actually just sit here and I can read a text message on my phone. And that full color pass-through means that it is completely readable, it's clear, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, and the full color pass-through makes it available that you can have mixed reality experiences. So one of my favorite games is the game that comes with the Quest 3. It's easy to show people how to use the Quest 3, and you can kind of watch your walls disappear as you go from your normal space into this kind of weird alien world. I'm fascinated to see what other mixed reality experiences they come out with, perhaps like the new Lego game that just came out, or even, you know, many years ago, they talked about a Minecraft game that I think may be available in the HoloLens, but I'm not sure. Now, let's talk about price for a moment. The Quest 3, and this is fascinating, I had to look this up the other day. When the Quest 1 came out, I believe the Quest 1 released at a price of $599 for the Quest 1. It was outrageous. It was quite expensive. It was a neat toy if you could afford it. The Quest 2 came out at a price point of $399, I think, and eventually dropped to $299. So the Quest 2 for $299 is like amazing at its price point. The Quest 3, even though it's better, starts off at a price point of $499 for the 128 gig model. So that means you're paying almost twice as much for the Quest 3. So actually right now, I would say if you don't have a headset and you're looking to get in at an affordable cost, go out and buy a Quest 2. It's a really good deal. If you've got the extra money, the Quest 3 is a really nice improvement. But if you've already got a Quest 2, stepping it up to the Quest 3, unless you can really afford the extra bucks, not a huge improvement, maybe about a 20% improvement. The Quest 2 is still a great headset. Now, I want to talk about another feature of the Quest 3 here. If you have eyeglasses, the Quest 2 had this really funky insert that you had to put in. You know, I even lost mine. I couldn't find it. A friend wanted to play on the Quest 2. I had to put that insert back in. Very frustrating, very weird. The Quest 3 has this little thing. I don't know if you can see it in the camera here. I'll try and get a close up. Yeah, there you go. So there's this little thing right here. There's a button. And if you press this button, it actually extends the headset out. It's this telescoping feature so that it's very easy to just extend the headset out. Suddenly, if you look here at the bottom, you'll notice there's a gap. This gap allows for a little bit more room between your eyes and the lenses. So if you wear eyeglasses, you can just put them in. Now, both the Quest 2 and the Quest 3, there are manufacturers that make inserts for lenses that go in there. I've heard they're wonderful, totally drastically changes the experience, especially if you're the only one to use your headset and you're not sharing it amongst family members. Custom eyeglass inserts would probably be an ideal solution for that. Audio quality. The Quest 3 is a whole lot louder than the Quest 2. I find that there's a little bit more dynamic range in the sound, but both headsets sound great. Both have an audio jack for connectivity. So if you want to put some plugged in headphones, both can do Bluetooth, although I wouldn't recommend this unless you're just watching movies or something like that, because there's enough lag in the Bluetooth that it's just kind of not perfect for gaming. Now, watching a movie or something like that, I have used my AirPods to connect with the Bluetooth and watched a movie on this thing. It's actually quite great. And that being said, the movie watching experience, I tried to watch a 3D movie on the Quest 2. I found that the eye strain trying to watch a movie where not everything was clear was fatiguing my eyes, and I actually couldn't get through about half an hour of a movie. The Quest 3, I've watched multiple 2-hour movies on the Quest 3, and it's very comfortable to watch. And I would actually say it for me, makes it that much closer to where you really could, maybe eventually if something like the Apple Vision Pro comes out at a cheaper price point, that you could sit and watch long movies on a regular basis on a headset. Social integration, I want to talk a little bit with the software. It is a bit frustrating with some of the social features that Meta has put Instagram or Facebook kind of front and center. I still haven't found a way to disable the little Meta feed that comes up. It seems like every time I put the headset on, it wants me to scroll Instagram as if I'm scrolling TikTok. I don't want to scroll Instagram when I put the headset on. I want to play VR games. So that's a little bit frustrating, but I understand why they're doing it. They're trying to push their content, and quite frankly, at the price point that the Quest 2 is at, I could understand that they're offsetting the cost of the Quest 2 by giving social ads. Makes sense. When you compare a $300 headset to something like the Valve Index that's coming in at about $1,000, no comparison in terms of why the price is the way that it is. Overall, let me give my overall thoughts and feelings on the Quest 3. Last thing, PCVR. I am an avid player of PCVR games. I love jumping into Microsoft Flight Simulator. I've played Half-Life Alyx, which I would highly recommend for anybody that likes playing VR games. Half-Life Alyx still feels like the quintessential VR game if you can get into it and on a good computer that makes the resolution what it needs to be. Quest with PCVR. I had a lot of weird problems. With my Quest 2, I had no problems. I connected to my router. Everything was fine. With the Quest 3, I don't know if it's the increased resolution that it needs more bandwidth, but for some reason, the router being on a different level of the house than I am, I found that I was not able to connect consistently with the Quest 3. Later, I finally installed a router here in my basement so that the only thing happening is my headset connects to that router, connects to my PC. Night and day difference. The experience went from flawed and almost completely unplayable to smooth, buttery, and beautiful. I played Flight Simulator. I flew around my neighborhood, flew around my house, and it was breathtakingly beautiful. So I've got to say, the PCVR experience on the Quest 3, if you have the right connectivity, if your network's good enough and your PC is strong enough, highly recommend some PCVR through the Quest 3. Now, there again, you're looking at a $500 headset with a very expensive PC. It's not a cheap proposition. So if you want to just spend the $300 on a Quest 2 and get that experience through the VR games that are already installed on there, I'll tell you a few of my favorite games here in a moment. I would highly recommend that experience. Okay, before we get into my game preferences and my overall thoughts and feelings, let me tell you about the other weird thing that I tried out. I threw the headset on while I was on an airplane just to see if I could watch a movie while I was on an airplane with the VR headset. It's something they showed off in the Apple commercial for the Apple Vision Pro, that you could throw the Apple Vision Pro headset on and watch a movie while you're on the plane. I was curious if the Quest 3 could do it. A couple of thoughts. Number one, the way that the head tracking and hand tracking works on this thing, do not try to use this during takeoff or landing, or while the plane is significantly changing altitudes. I tried it on takeoff and landing, and the movie screen went from in front of me to suddenly floating behind me. It was a little bit weird. It was jarring. Couldn't do it. Once I was in the air, for some reason, maybe this is to do with the way the plane was flying, for some reason, the screen would go from directly in front of me to kind of slowly drifting off slightly to the left side. I found myself having to frequently press the button to recenter the Oculus. But other than that, the experience was great. With the pass-through, I could have full color pass-through and see the passengers around me. I could see when the flight attendant came to ask me for something to drink. And I was still watching the movie on what would have been probably a 50-inch screen in front of me through the headset. It was a great experience. I loved it. And I would actually highly recommend it, other than the fact that you've got to look like this while you're on the airplane, which is a little weird if somebody's walking up to you and you look like an alien with a box on your face. So if you're willing to look like an alien with a box on your face, movie watching on the Quest 3 on the plane, once you're in the air, a neat experience. The other thing is you'll actually have to have that movie preloaded or have internet connectivity that's fast enough to get you something like Netflix or things like that. Oh, that brings up a whole other thing. Apps. Right now, with the App Store being the way that it is on the Quest, there's a lot of things that I want that are just not available. I would love for Quest to open up a little bit more. I don't know who's blocking it. I don't know who's behind the apps not being there. There is a Netflix app. I wish it had pass-through. Right now, you can just sit in a cabin and watch Netflix on a big screen in a cabin. There's no Disney app. There's no Hulu app. There's no, let's see here. To my knowledge, there's no Paramount or Peacock app. There is no Plex app, although you can use apps like Big Screen or Skybox VR to load content, to load, if you have a movie file, let's say you've got a home movie or something like that, you load a movie file onto the headset and you watch it that way. The same thing can be done with Virtual Desktop, which is a great way to access your PC. So with those apps, it's possible. But I want more connectivity. I would love to see a Hulu app. I would love to see a Disney app. I would love to see, that was one I didn't mention, Disney. I would love to see a Netflix app that allows pass-through. So some of those things I still feel like are lacking on the headset. Now, if you're willing to go this route, you can load SideQuest on your headset. I'll put a link below for SideQuest. It's a way that you can load APK apps through like a Android app. You can load those apps in. So there is like a Disney Plus app. For some reason, I couldn't get it to work, but some of the other apps I was able to get to work, including things like Discord. You can load in through that SideQuest APK. There's also some games that are in development that they allow like a demo version of their game through the SideQuest. Side loading is what it's called. So I'll put a link to how to do that. It's a little bit complicated. It feels hackery-ish, but at least it's a possibility so that you can load things like that into your headset. Games that I love and apps that I love. A couple of my favorites so far, Vader Immortal 1, 2, and 3. Chapters 1, 2, and 3 have been really fun. I feel like they're kind of overpriced, but if you consider them compared to the price of a Disney ticket, $10 each for a chapter that's a 30-minute game, it's quite fun. Moss is another game that I absolutely love and adore. I've not played Moss 2 yet, but Moss so far is wonderful. You play as this kind of big ghost figure that's controlling this tiny mouse. It's beautiful, it's cute, it's adorable, it's great for kids. I have gotten Walkabout VR Golf, but I have not played it yet. I'm also really intrigued by 11 Table Tennis. I hear that it's great, but again, have not played it. As I mentioned, Half-Life Alyx for PCVR is wonderful. Let's see what else. The games that come natively on the app are quite fun. I've heard great things about, oh gosh, what's the game? Wander, which I think is a PC VR game. Another fun experience is Tetris, the Tetris Effect. Playing Tetris Effect in VR, just mind-bogglingly beautiful. A great party game is Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. So if you're playing Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, one person has the headset, they're defusing a bomb. Everybody else in the room is trying to tell them what to do if the bomb has certain connections, but they're not able to see the bomb. It's a whole lot of fun. It's a great party game. Highly recommend it. Last but not least is a interesting app that I've recently checked out called Pillow. It's a like sleepy time app where you can see things on your ceiling. It's actually meant to be played laying down. That's a whole lot of fun. I've tried games like Population 1 in VR. Not a huge fan. I think it's just not my jam. My kids love playing Gorilla Tag, so that's a highly recommended free game where you run around as a gorilla. Just be careful because with VR, you want to make sure you're not straining yourself so bad that you're injuring yourself because you're doing VR. And that brings me to probably my last app recommendation, which I've started using for fitness, and that is Supernatural VR. Let me know in the comments if you want a invite code. I've got I think a month free that I can invite you to. Maybe I'll even just put those invite codes in there, and anybody that wants to can grab them, kind of first come, first serve. So Supernatural, it's kind of like Beat Saber, which reminds me that you should play Beat Saber. Beat Saber is a whole lot of fun. It's a music game where you hit little boxes with your hands. It's a rhythm game. Supernatural is very similar, but with a fitness element. So you actually have fitness coaches. They lead you through stretches, which I'd highly recommend before and after your workouts. It tracks your heart rate through your Apple Watch or other smart device. It tracks your calories. It tracks your fitness levels. And it includes things like stretching, squatting, there's boxing, and hitting balloons with bats. And there's a meditation thing in there. So I think that's most of my update on the Quest 3, the apps I'd recommend, the hardware. If there's something that you want to know about the Quest 3, leave a comment in the comments, and I would love to get back to you about my thoughts and feelings about that. Lastly, don't forget to like and subscribe to our content. We here at Crossfire Faith and Gaming want to engage in the gaming space in ways that are positive and productive. We have a podcast, we have a Twitch stream, we have a Discord channel where we gather every Monday night at 8:30. We would love for you to be a part of this community if you'd like to join. You don't have to necessarily be Christian, just be interested in being with a group of Christians to be in our group, and we would love to see you there. So until next time, this is Reverend David Petty signing off, and remember that you are beloved, that you belong, and that you are a wonderful child of God. I'll catch you later. Have a good one. Crossfire.